Kevin, what are you seeing in your sector? What are you hearing? What are your businesses feeling? Does anything I said resonate with you? And we'd just love to hear from you for a few minutes.
Yeah, maybe to start, I think what's the first thing that comes to my mind? You said excitement, and I think that's really where I am. Excited that we have so many more opportunities to capitalize on. Just like when we started using the BlackBerry phone, it opened up so much more for productivity. This is, times 1,000, and I think most are quite excited about it. I think our sector is still a little slow to adopt it fully. Grappling with what is it, how do we use it, what can we do? Everyone agrees that this is a tremendous opportunity for efficiency. How can we do report writing much quicker? How can we do scans of databases of historical sites much quicker? For those on the call that are not familiar with the environmental sector, often if one of your assignments would be to figure out contamination on a particular area of downtown Toronto, what do you start with? You start with going through historical databases of and finding out that this was actually a gas station back in the 50s and things like that. That search for information is so quick. Obviously, you have to be like Mark was saying, you have to be aware of, is that accurate? You have to fact check. And in most of these language models, you can actually ask, please provide me a reference and a source for your information. I do that very frequently after I've been presented with something that makes sense. Respond back, please provide some references. Sometimes those references are really good, and sometimes they're just generic links to KPMG's homepage. That's not as helpful. I'm sure there is a report there that I can look for, but make sure that everything is fact checked. The other thing that is very well embraced so far is utilizing it for presentation creation. For those of you that are not visually super talents like myself, I know what I want to say. I don't know how kind of I want to convey, but I'm not really good at sitting down and creating PowerPoint decks. So I would typically hire someone to do that for me. Well, that's an efficiency that can be improved using some of these tools that by feeding in the right prompts, like we've been talking about, not just the content, but what's the look and feel that I want, what's the target audience, how should this look? Use that to make a good product. Another thing that's available in the paid version of ChatGPT that I often use myself, and I know that more and more people in the environmental sector are using it, is the ability to summarize files. So you can upload larger documents, and especially within the environmental sector, when you need to scour through hundreds of pages of documents, getting a summary and getting a quick summary, getting an accurate summary, it is very useful. And we've had one company we worked with that came back to us and said, well, they've done some very useful SWOT analysis with about 50 people within their organization. And now it was that person's job to summarize those 50 SWOTs that are all over the place. Well, that was actually done with generative AI very, very quickly. It was a matter of 10 minutes and then going back and forth. And then you have a summarized version of what several people have been contributed for a SWOT analysis. I think there's also great potentials in addition to efficiency for innovation, using the systems and the tools available to kind of prompt new ways of thinking. Go back and think about what have I forgotten here. Yes, I think all in all, within the environmental sector, efficiency and innovation are the two key areas. And I'll pass it back to you for some additional comments from you, Mark.
Yeah, I think what's really, really interesting. So a lot of the conversation right now is based on people's use of the publicly available large language models like ChatGPT or any of the others we might think of. But what's really interesting is there's starting to be the verticalization. So in industries. So I'm sure we're not far off from having a large language or a private large language model designed for the environmental sector that will be tuned to do what you want it to and will be constrained to curated information, documentation, and data sources that are validated. So even now there's something called retrieval augmented generation where we can create a constrained box, for lack of just to keep it simple, create a constrained box of material that's curated for a specific purpose. And it uses the power of the large language models, but it's constraining the results. So you're not getting a result from a random place on the internet. It's coming from the documentation that's approved. So that's called retrieval augmented generation. That's kind of using maybe a platform on top of one of these large language models. Then the next step is actually private large language models. And for government or for others, so imagine, Barbara, all of the policy papers and all of the research reports and all of the funded project reports and evaluation reports and everything else being available to you in a constrained private large language model when you're thinking about policy, right? Like this is, having the days, I think, of having, a whole team of people trying to do knowledge mobilization and summaries of documents to make them more accessible to people are gone. And, even Kevin, we've been talking like, what's the future of a industry sector? If you had all the white papers and all the approved documentation, like you said, like that would be incredibly powerful, industry by industry by industry. And we are going to see that verticalization of tools within industries. There are a lot of exciting. Ontario is actually, I was interested to find out, Ontario is doing a pilot project with 130 doctors where, you go into your doctor and basically with the patient's approval, this AI tool, we use it all every day, like on, say, Microsoft Teams or something, but it will actually take the notes for the doctor, but it's tuned to actually put it in the information system that the doctor uses to maintain your record. So it's basically saying that it's improving physicians' time by like 40%, right? Because 40% of their tasks is actually just taking documentation. So maybe they can spend more time with the patient, or maybe depending on where we add that productivity benefit. But like I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. We never really touched on it, but while I'm on this topic, I'm just gonna quickly, my personal feeling, 8 years ago, we had all this kind of these reports coming out that AI and robots are coming and they're going to take all our jobs. Never believed that at the time. Think it's wrong. But now we have a lot of people saying kind of, oh, that's the opposite. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. We went through the Industrial Revolution. We figured everything out. There's always net new jobs. To be clear, my personal feeling, there will be in the future more opportunity, more jobs, or so on, but we are still going to have to go through a period of change. Imagine that disruption. If you've ever renovated a room in your house or cleaned out your garage, it always gets worse before it gets better. And I do think it's important for all of us to do what we can to mitigate kind of that period of change, because I think it will be potentially disruptive. Other people disagree with me. That's my take. Maybe in 10 years you can figure out whether I'm right. We can have another webinar. We'll talk about whether we're right or wrong, but I do think it will be, there absolutely will be some winners, some losers, and there will be change, right? So how do we as a society decide how to manage that?